How many times as an immigrant have you faced that challenge of trying to find a job? Of sending out your resumes and not getting any callbacks, waiting for weeks on end for a call after going for an interview, or perhaps multiple interviews? You wait, and all you get is crickets. Do you know why that's happening? On today's episode of the CyberSec Migrant, we're going to be looking into the hiring landscape, why it is that people apply for jobs, do interviews, and don't get any callbacks, what it is you're doing wrong, and how you can update your resume, your cover letter, and walk through the entire hiring process to ensure that you're putting your best foot forward and you're getting callbacks for interviews and ultimately landing the job you so desire and deserve. Welcome to another episode of the CyberSec Migrant. Hello and welcome again, everyone. And today, like I said, we've got a special guest with us who brings a wealth of experience and knowledge in the hiring process, particularly for newcomers to a new country. So, join us today as we're looking deeper into this topic of navigating the hiring process as a new immigrant. Our guest today is Adedamola Adejobi. We're going to call him Ade for short. He's a seasoned human capital development specialist with over a decade of experience across multiple sectors in Africa, Europe, North America. He has a large depository of wealth and expertise in cultivating individual and organizational growth. And Ade is an example of a successful career lord in his professional path and pursuits. He's an avid reader of biographies and a passionate traveler. Not many people read again these days, so that's good. And to mention more, he's also currently serving as a board member of the Thrive for Blacks, which is an organization committed to empowering Black communities through education and entrepreneurship. And just a couple of highlights for a day. He moved to Canada a few years ago and he landed a job within 30 days of arriving in Canada as a temporary resident. And he has moved from applying for jobs to right now he's being headhunted for jobs as well. So he fully understands what it's like to try to navigate that hiring landscape. And with all of these experiences, he has developed a keen understanding of the intricacies and the nuances of the hiring process. He's gained valuable insight into the unique challenges that immigrants encounter when they try to break into the cybersecurity field. So, enough of my voice. Let's hear from Ade. So, Ade, introduce yourself to the guests this evening.
Thank you, Femi. I think you've done all the introduction. There is nothing new I want to add to all that you've said. Thank you so much. And I want to say I appreciate the opportunity to be able to contribute one or two things relating to my industry and also to be a part of your podcast. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the privilege.
Thank you so much, Ade. So, to our listeners and to our guests who are viewing this, if you're looking to just sort of understand that hiring landscape, how you can tailor your resume effectively, or the communication skills you need to have, or the experiences you need to show, this is the episode you need to listen to. So, sit back and relax. So, now let's get right into the nitty gritty of it so that you can transform yourself. First question I'm going to ask, Ade, can you tell us your story? What was your journey to become an expert in the hiring field? Not many people do that these days. So tell us your story.
Okay, thank you. So basically, let me start from my education, and I think that has been part of the good to have for my industry as well. So I studied psychology in my bachelor's, and for my postgraduate program, I have a master's in public policy with specialization in conflict resolution.
Well
So,
done.
as you know, yeah, as you know, conflict is everywhere.
Yes, true,
I
true.
mean, in every organization, you deal with conflict, and even HR itself, you deal with policies, employment laws and things like that. So, coming back to my bachelor's, psychology, study of human beings, and then mental processes and all of that. Every organization you deal with humans. Now that AI is coming and all of that,
Chat
you see how,
GPT.
yeah. You see how human beings and AI even collaborate, just for the benefit of the organization and all of that. Productivity is the end goal.
Yeah,
Um, Beyond that, I have other certifications as well uh, in this field of HR, talking about labor relations, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
that's the big thing right
Um,
now these days. It's time.
Yeah, yeah, most especially for the country where we are. It's a very diverse country, and
Yeah.
yeah, and every organization right now. you see that diversity there. So how do you manage that diversity to your own advantage to boost productivity
Yeah.
within your
Yeah.
organization? So these are some of the good things you want to have as an organization.
Yeah.
You want to see
Yeah.
yourself as being diverse, and also leveraging on that for the good of your own organization as a whole. Yeah. So I have other certifications, other self um, taught courses or conferences, self-sponsored conferences I've gone to, and all of that. And maybe we'll get to that later. When I see people get into an organization, if the employer is not sponsoring you for further training, you're not willing to do anything beyond that space to
That's not
even
good,
develop
though.
yourself, which is not a good thing.
I know people
Yeah,
will do that,
at
but
least
it's not a good idea, really. I don't think you should
it's
develop
not a good
yourself,
idea. I mean, if you, I always say something that if you're earning 50,000 a year, at least devote 1,000 or 2,000 for further training, further development.
so that
You
you can grow
understand?
from
So
50 to 80.
exactly, maybe.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah,
true. There's something you mentioned that I just to digress. You said something about managing people, and I remember my dad used to say something was like human engineering is the most difficult engineering because human beings are difficult to deal with.
absolutely,
You can have you can have cattle, you can have all of that, and they're easy to control. But human beings, there's always somebody who kicks against you, who doesn't like what you're saying. So it's hard.
absolutely. Mm.
But
Yeah.
especially thinking back, especially this country we are in, here in Canada, and I'm sure in many parts of the world, because there's been a lot of migration in recent years. There's been the lots of people living in Nigeria, living in Africa to go to the West. The Europe, North America, Asia sometimes. And so the world is becoming more diverse, and there's now a lot of room for DEI initiated by companies. So
Mhm.
when hiring managers are assessing resumes or assessing candidates, what are they looking at? What's their perspective? And is DEI a big factor in those perspectives when they're looking at them? Can you tell us some insights?
Well, it depends on the organization. So, I currently work with a public sector with one of the federal government agencies here. Um, and part of what we look at in terms of our employment processes, we have quota for different DEI programs. So
Okay.
there are four categories. So we have the indigenous, the visible minorities, women, and people with disabilities.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
after looking at all the essential staffing requirement, the education, the experience, the skills, and all of that, and when we have a list of candidates who had qualified for that, then we apply um, the gaps that we have in terms of our equity or diversity or inclusion. So those four categories I'd mentioned. So then we apply based on the gaps we've identified because one important thing is having metrics. So
Yeah.
if you've identified gaps within your organization, you are able to apply that when you're making your staffing that particular position
Data does
within
not
that
lie.
organization. So yeah, data doesn't lie. So yeah, so for each positions we know the gaps existing. So we know whether we already have someone with disability or a visible minority within that division. If there is none, we prioritize that based on shortlisted candidate for
Yeah.
that position.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's part of what we look at when we're trying to staff a particular position. We look at the data, we look at the gaps that is existing. So basically, for an organization that doesn't have that yet, most especially in the private sector, is what you want to get the data within your organization,
Yeah.
and you see how you can apply that to your recruitment process, which is very important as well.
Yeah. Quick question. I just want to clarify for those who are listening. You look at these four criteria, disabilities, women, indigenous, visible minorities. You're not saying that you ignore that they are qualified for the role because they are indigenous or they are minorities or they are women. They must be qualified for the role first, and then you consider that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. So we have essential staffing requirements. So you must meet those requirements. So we're talking about education, we're talking about the experience, we're talking about all the essential requirement for that particular position we've
Yeah.
advertised. So if you meet those essential requirements, yes,
Okay.
and you're part of the shortlisted candidate, yes, then we can apply the gaps that is existing
So don't
within that
just
division
say
because
because I'm a woman, they must give me the job, or
no.
because
So
I'm
for that
minority.
division, if you don't have a gap for women, and the gap we only have is for people with disabilities and indigenous people, And if anybody out of the shortlisted candidate have identified to be one of those,
Okay.
they will be the one getting the job.
So
So
that
it's all about data, making it very transparent as well. It's very accessible on our company website. You can see the gaps that exist for each positions. So if you had applied and identified for any particular category, yes, we consider that.
so that means this that's something came to my mind because sometimes when you're filling some of these forms and they say, do you identify as minority, visible minority, or and they give you yes, no,
It's
or
very
choose not to
important to
say.
do. Yeah.
So people choose not
Yeah.
to say. Don't choose not to say, right?
Well, you're shortchanging yourself. Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, it's best to answer, most especially if you're a visible minority or person with disability and things
Okay.
like that. It's best, it's an advantage for you. It's an hedge. After we've applied every staffing requirement, staffing rationale, and all of that, it's a good thing to have. It's a good addition to have. You know, that might be the only last decision for
That
us to use to make a final decision.
and that will put you
So
in or out.
that's exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
but I do understand the argument of other people as well that I just want to get this on merit. I don't want to use any personal advantage to get any position. But what I do tell people is every advantage is an advantage, and every uniqueness of you
It is an
should
advantage
sell you.
already. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an advantage already. So why would you say you don't just want to be a diversity hire? We are all diverse, whether you accept it
Exactly.
or not.
True,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Great, great, great there. Some nice tips there. I've learned something new already. Now, let's just come back to the hiring process and getting into the hiring process. I know some people will say, "Oh, I've applied to 20 jobs, I've not got any callback. I've applied to 30 jobs, no callback. Or I've done so many interviews, no callback." What would you say are the most relevant things to put when you want to craft an impressive application? How should you craft your cover letter? What should you include in your resume? Should you include your primary school information? Should what information is the most thing that would help your resume and your cover letter stand out? Because most times they say, like the other day I was on LinkedIn, I was looking at a role on LinkedIn, and then I saw how LinkedIn lets you know how many people have applied. And I was like 357 applications. I was like, eh? So,
That's just through LinkedIn alone. Yeah.
exactly. Not about the company website or other place or Indeed. So, how do you make your application stand out?
So thank you. That's a very good question. There are a lot of things you can do to make your application stand out. And I always tell people that recruitment is an open book. It's very easy. So when a company put out a job ad, they've already mentioned everything they're looking out for.
Okay.
So the job description is an open exam for you. Go to the job description, make sure you have at least 65%. Once you have 65% of all that is mentioned on the job description, you stand a better chance.
Not 100%. You don't
Of-
have to be
Not
100%.
100%. We are not looking for 100%.
That's a unicorn.
We'll tell you that 65%. I'm telling you. So on your resume, you want to show to me the skills, your achievements mentioned on your resume,
Okay.
how you meet those experiences. So if I say I'm looking for a cashier, so say I have a retail store, you should be able to tell me how you use cash register, how many customers you can attend to within the space of 1 minute. Because as a retail store owner, what matters to me is how
Quickly.
you're able to attend to people very quickly, move the line and all of that. Are you conversant with the technology we're using and all of that? Someone that is not going to cost me much to train,
Yeah.
because that's another thing we look at as well. How much is it going to cost us to train and all of that? I know attitude matters, but numbers matters as well. So
Yeah.
we look at all of those things. So now if you meet 70%, 80% of what I'm looking for, then you are my choice candidate.
Okay.
So then I shortlist you. Then we move to the second stage. Okay, that's when I get to invite you for an interview. At that stage, I'm assessing your attitude, what your behavioral skills, your cognitive skills, and all of those things. Your technical skills as well. We are assessing all of those at the interview stage. But like you said, what gets you in the door? Your resume is very important, how you craft it. Sometimes some organizations don't even look at your cover letter, but
Oh,
majorly your
that's
resume
interesting.
should be able to sell you. So, depending on the type of position, depending on how technical the position is, you want to list your achievement basically, what you've done, this technology that is relevant to that industry. You want to show that you have a good knowledge of those technologies as well.
Okay.
and also your experience, how long you experience you have in that particular industry, in that particular sector as well. So those are the major things that we look at for
Okay.
in trying to fill a position. And like you said, LinkedIn is just not the only recruitment source that we
One of
look at.
several
The company
funnels.
website is there. Yes, you have referrals as well. So those
Yeah.
are some of the things we look at for. And I do understand the frustrations of candidates as well when they apply for positions. Oh, they ghosted me. They didn't. Well, if you look at the job description, some organizations will tell you we are only going to be contacting shortlisted candidates.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I look at some application, I've received over 1,000 applications for
That's a
just one
lot.
position. So I mean, I can't attend to everybody, so and I'm not able
Definitely
to
not.
give feedback to everybody. But then when I'm posting the job, I already mentioned I'm only going to be reaching out to shortlisted candidate. If you have gone through an interview with me, yes, I can give you that opportunity to provide feedback because I'm only going to bring out five candidates forward for an interview. I'm not going to invite 20.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Too much
yeah.
is just
So
makes no
if
sense.
out of the five, yeah, you didn't get it, the position goes to just one person. The remaining four people, yes, I'm able to give feedback.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, and then yes, you talked a bit about the interview process there, and that's one of the things I've also had people complain about and say, I went to the interview, but I don't know how I didn't do well, I didn't get any feedback, or I didn't have any questions for them. Was that a good idea? What would you say is the best tips you can give to anyone to say, you're going for an interview, do this and you will nail the interview? Because I think for many people, getting, like I said, getting the foot in the door is just one thing, but if you don't do well at the interview, then there's no point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so it's very easy going for interviews. If you know what you know and you're confident about what you know, it should not be difficult.
Okay.
Most especially, and again, it depends on the industry. So there are certain things I look out for. So depending on the position, if it's a position that requires you relate well with people, you don't want to come out as timid.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to have a good knowledge of the industry as well. You want to have the technical know-how of the position because not just only HR is going to be sitting across when they're interviewing you. Someone with the technical know-how within the department or the division where you're going to be working, potentially your manager, will be on the interview panel and assessing you, assessing your fitness. So basically, what the HR person is essentially watching out for in the interview is making sure that everybody is guided by the employment standard, making sure watching out for the behavioral competencies and all of that, and the cognitive aspect. The manager on the other end is looking at the technical competencies
Okay.
because they are the experts in that. So all of that combined together, you want to show a good understanding of all of that. You want to show that, excuse me, um, you can relate well with people. You want to give good experiences of your previous, good example of your previous experiences, the organizations you work with, how you work through a process, how you manage a project, and all of that. How you relate well with people, how you handle feedbacks as as an individual. So these are some of the things we're going to be watching out for. We can ask this in different questions. We can ask same question in three different ways
Just to get the answer you're really looking for.
just to see if you're consistent
Yeah.
and
Okay.
all of that, just to get the answer we're looking for. And again, one thing I see with candidates is when they don't understand a particular question, um, they tend to go round and round and just say something. If it's not clear to you, it's okay to ask and say, please, can you clarify um, your question? And we're happy to do that. It's not just about it's a mutual thing.
Yeah.
Okay, as much as you're going out to offer something, um,
The
you should be
company's
able to
offering
get something
something too.
valuable back. Exactly. So, I mean, you should be bold to ask them questions about that particular position. I mean, one good question to always ask is, why is this position open?
Vacant.
Why is it vacant? Is it a new position? Is it that someone is not performing well
Hire and
and all of
fire.
that? And these are some of, yeah, so these are some of the good questions you can ask during the interview and all of that. Although they might not tell you the complete truth, but at least you will get an answer and you will
Yeah.
see whether it fits with what you're looking for as well. Because
Yeah.
most importantly, it's more about the fitness. It's a marriage between two people, between you, the organization, and also the individual coming into the organization. And like I always say, we as the HR, we are the gatekeepers.
Yes,
So
true.
we
Provide
have
the
to
right
make sure that we're
impression.
bringing exactly. So we are bringing in the right folks into the organization. Yeah.
Just a quick on that slight digression that you mentioned something as you were speaking earlier there. So before the interview, what's your opinion? What's your thought on sometimes somebody says I have an interview with this company. Maybe you know the name of the hiring manager, or maybe the recruiter has given you the name of the people who are going to be on the interview, and then you go on LinkedIn and start looking for them and searching them up. Is it okay to send them contact requests or start looking for how to ask people who are close to them questions before the interview? Or is that creepy? Because I've had people do that.
No, so it's okay to go and check the LinkedIn profile, get a little bit about them, but
Okay.
don't send an invite.
Okay.
Wait till after the interview. Make the connection first.
Okay.
And maybe after your interview and having that friend handshake and say, hey, by the way, I checked your LinkedIn profile. I'm fascinated about your career history and what you're doing with this organization. Is it okay if I send you an invite? The person will let you know whether they want the invite or not.
Exactly. Don't
Yeah.
force it.
So, um, yeah, you can go and view before the interview.
Okay.
That's part of doing your research, getting to know your future team. I mean,
Okay.
I did that. So that's part of the things I did when I was searching for my job here in Canada. And people should not get discouraged. As a new immigrant, you have a lot of more hurdles to cross before
Yeah.
you
True.
start becoming
I
the
know the
host of
story too
everybody to
well. I know
start
the
chasing.
story
Yeah.
too
So I
well.
applied for over 100 positions
Yeah.
when I came in,
Yeah.
and maybe only if you go back to me, I got three offers. At the end of the day, I went with the best one.
Yeah.
So, and the best one I went with, I had researched because I got the name of the people who were going to be on the interview panel. I went on LinkedIn to search about them, and when I was given response, I was able to tell my future manager things that matters to her in terms of her values, how our values relate to my values as well. So
Ooh, that's a
that
good
was part
tip.
of,
That's a good tip.
yeah. So yeah, so that was part of what worked for me. So I mean, you can do that as well, but don't send it connection. Wait until after the interview before and request if you can send them an
So
invite. Yeah.
appeal to what they find most dear to their heart. Good tip. Good tip. I'm also writing things
Yeah.
down here as well. Okay. Let's change tack a bit now. So there's all this. You've given all these tips. You've done. You've crafted the right resume and cover letter. You've gone to the interview. You've nailed the interview. But sometimes there's still challenges that some people face, or there can be red flags that people see. Right. What would you say, or even sometimes imposter syndrome, because that happens to some people.
Yeah.
How can a candidate, potential candidate for a role, overcome some of these challenges? What have you seen in your experience, or what red flags should a candidate be looking out for, and how can they surmount those challenges of those red flags in that hiring process?
Okay, so basically, you want to make sure that you're not making any silly mistakes on your resume.
Mm.
So what I consider silly mistake would be not having your phone number or any form of contact on your resume. I've seen a lot of them. I
Wow.
mean,
In
I say see
2023.
because yes, I'm telling you, it will amaze you things I see.
Wow.
So, um, or when you're drafting a cover letter, it's the same cover letter you've used for another organization and not reading through completely. And maybe you say company ABC at the first paragraph, and in the last paragraph you are saying company BCD.
Oh, that's not a
Yeah,
good one.
this is a silly mistake. So
That's a,
it's silly, but unfortunately, if we have high volume of people who had applied for that position, you're going to be weeded out,
immediately. That's a
irrespective of.
lack of attention to
Yeah,
detail.
yeah, exactly. So if part of the core skills we're looking for in that position is attention to detail, you
You
already
failed.
missed it.
Yeah.
So other thing you want to look out for is making sure that your social media um, accounts or images is professional in every way. Um, I know sometimes they say, "Oh, your social media account doesn't matter." It matters, most especially for the public sector. Yeah. So we want to get more about you because the first step is when we're trying to validate if you have this experience and all of that, and that comes to where some new immigrants package resumes.
Mm, yes.
So you have a different thing on your resume, you have a different thing mentioned on your LinkedIn. So, which one do we believe? Which one do we take? These are some of the areas people really don't pay attention to. Like, oh, I've applied to a couple of places and all of that. we do due diligence as well.
Yeah.
We want to ensure that people we are bringing into the fold are what they claim to be. So beyond reference check these days, we know that it's difficult to give a bad reference. You can even be sued for giving a bad reference because
Yeah.
you're costing them their means of
Good.
livelihood.
Yeah. True.
But then we have other ways of verifying informations as well. So
Okay.
these are some of the things that I want people to pay attention, especially immigrants.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, if you don't have a LinkedIn account, I encourage you to have one. It's very, very, very important. Um, these are some of the areas recruiters go out to as well when they're looking for people who have the experience for the position they're advertising and all of that. So it's quite important. Also, networking is very key. Um, you might know someone that knows someone that has a vacancy they can refer. So one of the key areas for recruitment for us is referrals, because we know that you will not want to bring someone who is going to put you to shame within that organization. You want
Yeah.
to refer the
Yeah.
best people, uh, someone you can trust for a job,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
their performance will rub off on you.
Oh yeah.
So
Absolutely.
you want to
Absolutely.
keep good contact. Always talk to people if you're looking out for something, let them know you're in the market for a particular job. If they have the vacancy within the organization or someone they can refer you to, absolutely. It's a very good thing to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So LinkedIn, make sure you're on LinkedIn, professional picture. Does that extend to Instagram and Twitter as well? You know, Twitter, I know Twitter is wild. Almost every day, Twitter is wild, but
Yeah, you can have Twitter, you can have Instagram, but what are you posting there?
yeah,
I
true.
mean, so if you want to work with a public sector, for instance, and you're talking about how government is useless, this and that.
Those kind of stories.
Yeah, nobody wants complicated or hard to manage employee.
Yeah.
That's the honest truth.
Save themselves a lot
People
of
are difficult
headache.
to manage. Yeah, people are difficult to manage already. You don't want to overcomplicate things.
Yeah, true.
Like someone who is already a hard stance on somewhere and something on a particular issue, and then they're applying for job within that same. Uh, if it's not objective, it is. If it is too subjective,
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
That's good because I know some people usually don't think that it's like they say it comes to bite you in the ass, right? If you don't pay attention to
Yeah.
it, um,
I mean, nobody would tell you this. We will not tell you this is the reason why
but you
we
would
rejected
know,
you.
you would know, you would know, you would know. Okay, let's change tack again. I wanted to ask you one question about something really interesting it's been on the waves recently, Chat GPT and all
Mm.
this AI. What's your opinion, or what would you advise people using Chat GPT to write cover letters and resume? Like, for example, I was listening to the radio the other day and the radio anchor was saying she got a very beautiful text message from her husband, apologizing, and she was like, this is so nice. And then he said, well, Chat GPT wrote it, and she was like, what? And she got angry that Chat GPT wrote it. But before she knew that, she was happy that it was a very nice text. But the moment she learned it was Chat GPT, she was
Yeah.
like, no. So what's your professional recommendation? Is it okay to use ChatGPT to write your resume, your cover letter? What would you say? Because that's the new craze
I
right
love.
now.
Yeah, I love technology, and I respect people when they use it for their good, leveraging technology as much as possible for their professional development. I mean, that's what technology is meant for.
Exactly. Make life easy.
To Yeah, to make life easy and for to enhance productivity, and also to save you from those silly mistakes that I've mentioned earlier. It's good to have, but then, so for instance, I've played around with ChatGPT myself. It's not always accurate most of the time.
Oh yeah, true.
So you want to do your part in amending or revising whatever result you've gotten from ChatGPT,
Okay.
and make it your own. It's a technology that probably you paid subscription for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's your own property. We want to believe it's your own intellectual property, because it's more like computer, garbage in, garbage out. It's
Oh
whatever
yes.
you fed or you feed the system, the results you get as well. So
Yeah.
if you're saying, okay, just copying and paste without revising, and you submit that, we're going to take it as what you presented.
Yeah.
So,
Write a
I
resume for
mean,
this
it's
job
okay.
description.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we can help you to look better, because you, most especially when you apply for a job, you're selling yourself, you're doing the work of a salesman.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're saying, I'm the best candidate for this job, and these are the reasons why you should pick me.
Yeah.
So if ChatGPT says something for you, better be that person.
Okay.
Look that part as well
Yeah.
when we bring you in for an interview and all of that. So I know it can help you. People use Grammarly and all of that, to help them with construction of their sentences and all of that, their write-ups generally. And I mean, and these are some of the tools people have within organization as well. So you have other project management tools as well. I mean, as long as it helps you, and you revising and not just taking the the garbage in, garbage out you're getting and not revising, that's where I have an issue.
Okay.
But if you're leveraging on it for enhanced productivity, I think it's absolutely all right.
Okay. Fantastic.
I
Thank you.
think it's okay.
So you've
We
heard
all
it
have
there.
different school of thought. I know some of my colleagues don't like it at all. Um,
Some people think it's
but
going to
then,
ruin all of us and put us out of a job in the future, which I don't think
well,
so, but
maybe it's going to wipe away some jobs. You understand? Um,
copywriting jobs.
but yeah, maybe we'll see the creativity that comes in. You
Mm,
understand?
mm,
So, um, but then it's more about the usage and the personality as
yeah,
well, how you use it, what you use it for. You
yeah,
understand?
yeah,
Because at the end of the day, whatever you're putting in, um, you have to take ownership of it.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
does that completely represent who you are?
And then privacy as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a different conversation. ChatGPT is a different conversation. Couple of questions because I see that we're going on. Let's just ask a couple of questions. There's one. Well, before my final question, most of our audience are in the tech space or security, all of that. What, as somebody who is on that side of the table, on the hiring side of the table, what would you say? What's the outlook for technology hiring over the next few years? Everybody says cybersecurity is the fastest growing sector in technology and all of that. But as somebody on that side, what do you see? Is it true that it's the fastest growing sector, or is that there's not enough people with skills? Just give us an insider's view into the technology
I,
market.
I think it's still the fastest growing,
Okay,
in the sense that most organization today is leveraging technology.
and the
And
cloud.
there is stiff competition. So we are stealing from each other. So that's the truth. We don't have enough,
Mm,
most especially if it's a position that requires someone who is highly skilled.
yeah,
So we are all stealing from each other and enticing them with different benefits, from the salary to the company benefits, the vacations, all these things. These are some of the carrots that we're using to attract.
I like carrot
So
cake. I'll take it.
yeah, so yeah, it's still the fastest growing because technology is in everything we do now. I mean,
Yeah,
and especially cybersecurity is a big threat. I see countries going to war with data. So I'm able to steal your data, and this is what I can do with it if you're not careful and all of that, most especially with that. And that every organization wants to protect their data.
yeah,
Because if you steal data from company, hey, you can sell it to their competition.
yeah,
And
yeah,
this is in that department, you want to have someone who is highly skilled that is able to protect you from something like that.
yeah.
You know,
True, true.
so it's still the highest, the fastest growing positions that most companies want to prioritize as well.
But very
It's quite
demanding.
important.
Very demanding. I
Very
can tell. I
demanding.
can
Yeah.
tell. I was every day I get all these alerts of this breach happened or that breach happened, and sometimes I just think back to 6 years ago, 7 years ago, and I was like, it wasn't this bad before. But anyway, um, the market is there. So if you're looking for a job in cybersecurity, get highly skilled, and then you get the job. So we've said so many things today. Thank you so much for coming on. But final question: do you have any final remarks, any advice for any up and coming or people thinking to switch careers or growing their careers, professionals that want to sort of grow their careers in cybersecurity, particularly if they're new to the country or aren't used to the Canadian way of doing things? Any final remarks, any advice, tips? Wrap it up with a bow.
So basically, what I would say is don't get discouraged. You're gonna face discouragement. You're gonna see some things that are gonna make you sad. You understand, but don't give up. You have to be persistent. First, build that self confidence. Yes, things are going to be tough. You're coming into a new market and you're going to hear this phrase a lot. Oh, you don't have the Canadian experience. There's nothing about the Canadian experience. You can always flip it back to them because basically, when they say you don't have a Canadian experience, what they are saying is, do you have good work ethics?
Yeah.
Okay. We
Yeah.
have you worked if you have worked with multinationals in your home country. You want to leverage on that. See, I've worked in this multinational. I have this sort of experience. I've worked with different personalities, diverse team, and all of that. You want to sell yourself in a way to show that you have this experience that they call the Canadian experience. I had my own fair share. And basically, what I always tell them is what I believe the Canadian experience is you're looking for someone with good work ethics. Look at my previous employers. I think that shows that I have a good work ethic. If I don't, I will not be allowed into this food, and I think I've worked in those areas, and I think I can meet the requirement of these positions as well. It can meet the challenges as well. So you show how you can meet with those challenges, what you have to offer, and that makes the difference. When you don't get a position, don't be let down. Sometimes it might be because you're overqualified or they can't afford you. Sometimes it might just be that there's someone much more better than you.
Yeah.
That's the absolute truth. We've seen cases like that. You're not the only good candidate. We have other better candidates as well.
Yeah.
So they might have applied for that position, but don't let that discourage you.
Yes.
Keep knocking the door. Eventually, the door will open.
Or you kick it
You'll
down.
find something. Yeah. Yeah. And again, sell your uniqueness.
Yeah.
Okay.
True.
Those questions, do you identify as these? Do you Don't be shy. Identify yourself.
Yeah.
You know, your diversity is part of your uniqueness. Sell it.
Thank you so much. That's so much nuggets, so many golden nuggets you've shared today, and I think it's just a very interesting thing. Ade spoke about Canadian experience. If you go back into the previous episodes, if you go to episode 3, I believe it is episode 3 talks about Canadian experience. So go back and look at episode 3. There's some talk about Canadian experience there. There's a few tips we shared there, and you could gain some more nuggets from that as well. So, but thank you so much, Ade, for coming on today. Thank you for sharing your wealth of
Thank
experience.
you so much.
At least I'm sure our audience now has some insight into how it is on the other side of hiring. It's not that the hiring manager doesn't like your face. That's not the case. There's so many things they're looking at, so many boxes to tick to before a hiring decision is made. So what I'm just going to say is he shared so many tips today. What I want our audience to do is let you know, have you can you share your hiring story with us if you've had any challenges with you know resumes or hiring or interviews. We would like to hear from you. So talk to us on our Instagram at CyberSec Migrant. Send us a message, send us a DM. Let's know your story. We would like to have that conversation about what your experience has been navigating the hiring landscape, particularly as a new immigrant in the technology sector. We'd love to hear from you. For those who are listening on audio, thank you for tuning again to this episode of CyberSec Migrant. And thank you so much to Ade for coming on today. And until next time, stay safe. To listen to